Welcome back. This is weekly update for February 14th, 2025. And yeah, it's been a pretty good week. I'm going to be working off of or kind of reading from a summary of the work I completed this week that I pulled from a report from my master tracker. So bear with me a little bit. I'll try and make this flow as naturally as I can while also trying to read from this as much as possible. So this week was a strategic and operational refinement period. So opposed to jumping right back into the execution phase, I know last week focused a lot on finishing the update that I had undergone after my first operational week. This week was kind of tying up loose ends that were left over from last week and the week prior. So what I had initially envisioned to be hopefully a 1 week update period has bled into 3 weeks. Last week was impacted a lot by my daughter having the flu and being 3.5 and being home with me all week. So I didn't get as much done as I had hoped. And this week was kind of picking up the pieces, identifying new things that were needed, and really just buttoning up the shop. So yeah, let's get into some of what I was able to do. So I spent a decent amount of time attempting to restructure, reorganize, and rename my archive. And to let you in on what that means, I have an archive of files that started when this project started in September and went all the way up to almost the end of December. Okay. At that point, I had reorganized my file structure, implemented a new concrete file naming convention, and everything generated from that point forward was organized, structured. I had a workflow that really streamlined what I learned over the previous few months, and everything came out exactly how it should. Everything before that, not so much. And everything before that was 50 gigs of data, maybe 40. So I think it was 500 plus files of varying file naming types, some of them not dated, some of them just not organized in any discernible fashion. So in my search to find a way to do this, I initially thought it would take, weeks of me just kind of building it into my daily process where I'll do this for 20 minutes or a half an hour and then I'll go on to my daily task. Instead, through, my random Redditing and just daily life, I came across AI platform Gemini, which is a Google AI, and realized that it had integrations with my Google Drive, which is where everything lives. And I started exploring how I could get it to do this process for me automatically. And while I found that it had some ability to interact directly with my drive, it was generally unreliable. The consistency was terrible. A lot of the times, it would tell me straight up that it was not able to do the things that I was asking, even though it had just immediately previously accomplished similar tasks. So with the frustration there, I started to look for ways I could automate the process. And in doing so, I came across Google Colab or Google Colab, which is a place where you can, I guess, write code or input code that directly interacts with your Google applications. So you can get API keys and you can then allow interconnections between applications. So I could have ChatGPT write a code that's designed to accomplish a task. I can input that code into Google Colab, and Google Colab can then directly interact with my drive. So I think I spent 5 hours refining code with both ChatGPT and Gemini, kind of cross-checking codes and test running them, and then putting them in Colab and seeing how they operated in like a test file structure so that I wasn't messing with all my files. And eventually I was able to correctly rename all of the files based off of my current file naming convention. I was able to pull the data on what I could, or the metadata from some of the last modified dates to guess at the correct file dates that didn't have file dates in their names. Pull the data from the file names that did have a version of dating in it. There was like 4 or 5 different ways I dated them across the months because I was just kind of learning how I wanted to do it. And I had 4 or 5 naming conventions that I had gone through. And then rename all the files using whatever dates possible. Whichever ones didn't have usable date information whatsoever, to include last modified dates because they had been moved or edited. There was a pre-2025 identifier put on those files. And then they were all moved into a structured file setup. So the 45 different folders and the 500 different files spread out in this really undiscernible structure has now been laid out perfectly and all renamed and organized. So that was, I don't know, 5.5 hours or maybe 6 hours of work that I thought was going to take me weeks, if not months. Now, I then started conceptualizing how could I have this process actually generate and populate the data inside my master tracker for me. So it analyzed all these files, pull the relevant data points, and input them for me. So I don't have to go back and then manually work through all these files and update my master tracker to account for those months of data that I don't have in there, which I'm going to need to do because I'm tracking themes, progressions, growth, and my master tracker wasn't implemented until, again, maybe 2 months ago. So maybe middle of December. So all that data I was talking about that needed to be organized hasn't been tracked. And that kills me because that's all stuff I need. When I'm thinking thematically, especially when I'm thinking writing wise, I know there's scene concepts and outlines or ideas that I still have to use my memory to kind of try and find where I can't analyze the tracker. And that's going to be hugely important, not just moving forward, but just as I write. So yeah, I spent a bunch of hours trying to do that, and I wasn't able to get it to do it. I was trying to link the Gemini API key through, so the code would use Gemini to analyze the files, and the AI would be able to determine what information applied most to the tracker, and then have the code then take the output from Gemini and input it directly, because Gemini can't do the file editing. I wasn't able to get it to work. I now have realized that I can actually get a ChatGPT API and use Zapier to maybe accomplish this, but I haven't dedicated any time to that yet. That's on a to-do list. So that we're going to move on from for now. It was a lot of work. I had no experience with code or connecting programs or, I don't know, conceptualizing any of this. I didn't know that you could do that. I knew you could do it. I just thought this was really experienced tech people stuff. So I was very pleased and impressed with how I was able to at least get my archive organized and renamed. So yeah, that's a big deal for me. What else did we do this week? I had some discussions, and this is going to point out one of the reasons why I need to update the archive is I just out of nowhere had some inspiration on potentially using a novella that I would release after the whole series was released as almost a bridge to the follow-up series, but also like a wrap-up to the original series. It allowed me to release book 5 second, but still have like this ability to have like a final ending that the reader didn't know about. And in thinking this through and talking it through with the Roundtable discussion group, I realized I really had already decided upon this months ago, and I had worked through how I wanted to operate it. And I think that kind of pointed out my need for getting my archive integrated. So I decided not to do a novella. I've tracked that whole discussion and those decision points in the tracker, so I won't lose that concept anymore. Yeah, I had a couple of AI-assisted reflection sessions where I talked about my ongoing long-term joblessness, my confidence, immediate action towards my professional stability and my financial stability. My relationship with Tracy, or my fiance, wife, whatever you want to say. I had some good sessions where I've tracked all of it, but I worked through some stuff that I'm going through right now. I mean, we're going on to month 7 of being jobless, and looking at the job market now and knowing that there's tens of thousands of federal workers who are going to be entering the job market, it doesn't look great. So I definitely needed to do some work on that and reflect, and I think I'm in a good place for right now, as good as I can be. So on from that, I did some operational changes. I updated the master tracker with a couple of new tabs. I added a bug and fix tracker, and I just added a networking tab. I've had some progress with understanding how best to use Reddit. I think, I was a new Redditor and I was excited about getting karma, and I think I was out there posting things too quickly that I didn't need to. I was engaging in communities before fully understanding what those communities were for. And I think I learned that I don't want to be doing that stuff. So anyway, this week's takeaways are, it wasn't a content heavy week. Next week, I am now going to go back to the operational phase. Now, it's actually school vacation for my son. So with that being said, I'm going to try and do this the way it's designed. And at the end of the days, after bedtime for the kids, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to do my 2-hour work blocks. And I'm going to try to do as many as I can. Now, it being school vacation week, maybe I'll only get 3 or 4 days in. But hopefully I'm going to shoot for all 5, and we're going to see where I end up. And I'm going to try and stay as focused on my life outside of this project in the other, the time that's not allotted for this. So hopefully I can have a real test run, post update, post 3 weeks of refinements, and see what a week of this course with its new update being fully operational actually looks like. So that's exciting. I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to re-engage with my creative production next week. I'm going to apply insights from my therapy reflections to my character development and my narrative structures. I'm going to continue my job search and my financial planning. I actually started to talk directly to my personal network It's something I haven't done yet. My brother-in-law has expressed an ability to maybe assist me with getting a job in years past, and I have kind of shed some of my vulnerability, or I've leaned into my vulnerability, and I actually reached out to him this week. So we'll see if that gets me anywhere, but it was a big step. It's not an easy thing to do. And then I'm gonna, maybe if time allows, on my core ops day, I'm gonna look into the Stride AI assisted automation. So I still want to see. My most recent understanding was that Zapier and ChatGPT can work through code with Google Drive. So maybe there's a way to get my master tracker automatically updated with my archive data. But I can't dedicate too much time, and if I can't, I might have to just start manually doing it. I can't wait forever. So anyway, while this week didn't include active writing, it was a pretty productive week. My long-term strategy, system refinement, and psychological insights were pretty key. So yeah, this week was about clearing mental and operational clutter, making way for focused creative output in the coming weeks. So I look forward to jumping into the operational phase, kind of letting go of all of this stuff that I've been working on the past 2-3 weeks, and really seeing what I can do again. I want to start writing again, and I need to. So here we go. Thanks for listening.